You know, I've not been playing in the limited competitions since the turn of the year. I sold all my limited cards to go back to zero to do a Road to Glory series where I could give away my rewards to everyone that gets involved in the content by leaving suggestions in the comment sections of the players that I should profile and then go and buy and bring into the Road to Glory team. So over that time, like that's the only limited competitions I've been entering, and it's been fun and it's been great. But my attention has moved more and more towards the drafts over that time period, because one thing I've always enjoyed about limiteds, and I hear people talking about this in other podcasts and videos, is that you might get an easy win in it, or a fun win, or a low thrills win. You're kind of exposing yourself to other competitions that are lower stakes than what you're perhaps used to, less jeopardy involved. And also the part of the thing that I do like about the draft is you get a wee bit of try before you buy, perhaps with maybe a limited or a rare card that I might be looking at. In last game week, I finished 330th in the Premier League, so I just came outside. It's top 300 to get cards. I was just outside of it. It wasn't too far gone, and I'd made some really good swaps, and I had a good shot. I thought I had a good feeling that I was going to get in amongst the cards, so I thought this would be a good week. With Celtic playing in the Scottish Cup semi-final this weekend, I don't need to worry about their team news, and so I can just chill back about that, and everything else I've got running in Champion Euro is pretty well documented in terms of availability and stuff like that. So I think I can spend a wee bit of time actually concentrating on the drafts and trying to optimize not just maybe my Premier League one, but maybe my La Liga, maybe MLS, and let's see if I can maybe have 4 competitive lineups go out of the drafts in this game week. At any point in the video, if you laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget and share and retweet and all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and let's get stuck into it. The Premier League is where I feel I've got a bit of a base in at the moment. I've built up some XP on some cards, but with there being no Arsenal this week, guys like Saka, who's been a big player for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, and anyways, a lot of big cards, Odegaards, and whatever else that won't be playing. And across the fixture list, there's a lot of interesting games now with the expected lineups that we're going to have, the implications on both all the teams that are involved and all the matchups that they have. There's not that many games I think you can look at and say this is a nailed-on selection. It's going to be an absolute kicker. Now, Crystal Palace are in the top 5 on form in the last 5 games. That's an improvement on 14th over the last 10. West Ham very firmly mid-table on the form. But West Ham away from home typically are not that great. And I think Eze coming in at 45 points on the cap mode is a very, very good pick. He featured on the Road to Glory series, and right afterwards, he dropped that L3 that you see there, a 70, 88, and 91. He's a guy that completes lots of dribbles, is box to box, is very dynamic, and is dangerous, scores goals, gets assists. And for Crystal Palace at home against a West Ham team that maybe isn't the best away from home, this kind of resurgence they've had under Roy Hodgson. Michael Olise is like 54 points or something like that. I find him appealing, but I think Eze at 45 is hard to ignore. I also don't mind Tyrick Mitchell at 46 points. If you actually look into this guy's scores, and if you actually watch him play, this guy's a really good fullback. He's got some really low scores that hold down his cap, but in good games, particularly ones that are, involving clean sheets, low scoring at home, etc., the sort of stuff we're talking about for this weekend's game, he can get into the 60s, so for a defender with a cap of 45, 46, that's kind of 60, 70 capable, Tyrick Mitchell's not a bad shout this week. In case you missed the video that went out the other day, we've got a new sponsor on the channel. QuinnBet have found the content, and they really believe in Quinny 3001, and they're sponsoring the channel. And how good is this? The guys at QuinnBet have enhanced their UK welcome offer, where you can now get a free bet up to £35. It's for new customers that sign up only. You can check out the full terms and conditions on their website, quinnbet.com, or see the link in the description of the video. Looks very impressive to me. It's 18 plus, and remember folks, always gamble responsibly. Now, I managed to draft in Sam Johnson myself last week before he played that 80 match or whatever, so I managed to catch that good score, which was good. But it's really difficult now in the Premier League getting a good value goalkeeper that's going to get you some actual decent points. He's obviously went and done a 14 since the 83, so it's not been all plain sailing, but he's starting to pick up a bit of form. And I think with these draft systems, it's always important to go in and check the values. We go into receive and we have a wee look at the values of where they all stand. The form, the L15 is going to be what moves this value, and you're always looking for guys that are maybe really good, that maybe when they dip down, you could maybe do a nice wee trade and bank them in for later in the season. Cody Gakpo at 52 for a forward card feels very good at the moment. If you look at his form since he's He can, that value can easily break 60s or something like that if he keeps this up in the run into the season. That L3, if we can keep that up over the next 10 matches, he'll be a very good striker to pick up the now for 52 points up front. Even Joe Linton at 51 looks really appealing. If you watch him on the pitch at the moment, he is just a machine. And Alexander Isak at 48 points could be a great pickup at the moment if he's going to start leading Newcastle into that second wind of the season. 48 points could be a great snap up for him up front. I traded out my Buendia this week, and at 49 points, I wouldn't really write him off. I just felt a little bit stung after that Fulham game. But at the time I finished 330th, he did get me that 65, and it was a big W. So Buendia is a part of that up the Villa, Villa to glory stuff. So he's a great shout for midfield, still under 50 points. Zebrichieze, who I've picked as well, obviously. And for defence, I think it's really slim pickings. I think it's really difficult to get a good value defender in the Premier League at the moment. So many guys that are kind of in and out, not at a good team, maybe injured, that are over 50, over 55 is incredible. And the amount of guys that are available, Robbo at 51 is probably good. Robbo's got back-to-back 80s, and it feels like, Liverpool don't have anything to focus on but the league. And if he's going to go match day to match day, Robbo might be able to keep this up. I wouldn't put it past him. And at 51 points, he could be an amazing defender pick, depending on how many Liverpool cards you've got. The value of Robbo could be very good. Now, Joachim Anderson had a bit of a howler recently, in case you missed it. But normally, he's actually a pretty good scoring centre-back. So he's at 47 now, but I'd maybe pay attention to this, because if he got even closer to the 40 mark, he could be like a really good, just like your cheapest guy available, because people don't get cheaper than 40 points. So if anyone who's good gets to 40 points, that's always something to think about banking into your club. Obviously, Varane is down here as injured. So again, he's maybe one of those ones to watch out for if you like a bit of a Varane. And in goals, let's say no one is amazingly cheap. Like, oh yeah, you can get this guy for 45 points and he plays all the time. Everyone's kind of in that 50 range or so. Maybe one or two of these guys around 45 are worth a look. But with Ramsdale not having a fixture this week, you'd probably write him off. And not many people are taking Ramsdale as one of their only two Arsenal players. Pickford at 44 doesn't feel exciting to me. Mesley at 41. Maybe you want to get him now that he's down there after that 0 at Liverpool and these scores pulling him down. Because he can get some AA Mesley, it must be said, but I don't know what you think about Leeds' outlook for the remainder of the season. Keylor Navas at 40, but again, he's just conceding 3 goals every game, isn't he? So it doesn't feel like a lot of fun, but he is nailed on, I suppose. Maybe he improves. So for this game week, I'm kind of rolling out, expecting a Palace victory here against West Ham. I think Van Dijk is a nailed on option for centre-back here in this game against Tottenham, who are just in free fall at the moment. I do have Harry Kane, so maybe I want to swap him out. Actually, yeah. I'm going to swap out Harry Kane that I've got in my team for Cody Gakpo for 52. I think that's a great selection. So this game week, I've got Sam Johnson in goals. I'm going to have Van Dijk in defence with Eze in midfield as my captain. I might actually change that to Captain Gakpo now, with Haaland the Cyborg up front. Love that. And we've managed to save a little bit of draft allocation there for maybe next week's draft when we want to maybe flip out of Eze or maybe flip out of the goalkeeper. We've got a wee bit more ammunition for that now next week in the Premier League draft. Now, in the Bundesliga this week, it's all about the top two. Dortmund are away to Bochum, and they're set to name a full-strength team. And Bochum, they're there for the taking for this Borussia Dortmund team. No two ways about it. Frankfurt and Augsburg, you would expect Frankfurt to have a good game here. Augsburg are very unimpressive. Leipzig, Hoffenheim could be 4 each or something crazy. Freiburg should be beating Cologne, you would imagine. Gladbach, Stuttgart are 2 crazy teams. You never know what will happen there, really. And Leverkusen and Union, I think Union, are they still in Europe or not? I forget now at this point. Leverkusen still march on in Europe, of course. Wirtz missed last week down a stomach bug, and who knows what the Leverkusen team will be going out, but they are still pushing at the top end of the table, and they will be taking every game seriously, even when they rotate. Werder Bremen look like a good victory against Schalke, probably a low-scoring game, but Bayern Munich are playing Hertha Berlin, guys. All bets are off. Bayern Munich are going to steamroll over Hertha Berlin. There's going to be 4 or 5 goals in this game at the very least. Wolfsburg are playing Mainz. That can be quite a tasty game to watch, and yeah, I'm probably not going to back that with any of my fantasy draft. Now, the base team that I would have without making any swaps would be this. So I've not even looked at the swaps yet for Bundesliga for good values or anything like that. But if you can get anywhere near this team, I think you'll do pretty well this week. I'm aiming for right at the top. I think Werner can get up to an 80 or something in a match like this. Brandt and Bellingham, as we know, are just on fire for this Dortmund team. And De Ligt is knocking out massive scores. And against Hertha Berlin, he'll do it again, no doubt. and it's just the goalkeeper then for me, really. Currently at 50 points, I think Werner's really hard to look past. I do also have Mane at 40 points, but he's maybe not 40 anymore. Maybe that's the value I have them for, in fact. Jamal Musiala at 52 is just as appealing as what Gakpo was at 52. Maybe his recent form hasn't been there, but you expect Musiala to score better once Bayern start performing better. Ludovic Ajorc, by the way, Jeremy McGann told me about this guy last year when he was playing for Strasbourg. He said he's one of the best target men in Europe. His numbers are up there with Benzema's and Giroud's and Haaland's and everyone else. And the form that he's just picked up recently, since he's transferred in January, it looks like, from France to Germany, has been quality. He's only 52. Against Wolfsburg, he could score against them, by the way. Wolfsburg are not... Against anyone in the German team, German league, I think a Jork could be a huge addition to add. But it does kind of look to peak out here around the mid-60s. This game against Leipzig, it must be said, though, 83. So yeah, Ludovic Ajorc at 52 points is a great forward pick this week, and I would definitely be looking at him. Muller at 50, but is almost as tempting, if not more tempting, because it's a Bayern player. Maybe even the same could be said for Sané at 47, or Hilaire. Is Hilaire? Yeah, Hilaire's still kicking ass. So he's at 45. A lot of options up front. And the Bundesliga is much more of a scoring league. You need goal scorers. You need guys that can break 80s in this division. I think both the midfielders I've got for the price I got them for, I don't know what they trade for now, but I think that's pretty good. Kimmich is only a 67. I don't know if that is an only situation. Is that maybe as cheap as he's been? It probably is, not too far off it. So maybe that's the time to get Kimmich in. Wirtz obviously now up to a 43, was a 40 for ages as an injured player. So if you've been holding a Wirtz this whole time, you're obviously onto a good thing at the moment. I really like Felix Nemeka at 51 points. He dropped an 85 last week. He will get about 60 points now on AA only. And in the cases where he does get a decisive or a goal or an assist, he can rock out 90s and 80s and stuff like that. He's a really good young midfielder, and at 51 points, I would definitely consider him too. João Cancelo also feels extremely cheap for a defender card at 51, just knowing how good he was on arrival on the platform. Maybe not for this game, but Angelino at 48 could be okay. Now, this game, he dropped a 52. He conceded 3 goals, which means he lost 12 points on goals conceded. So even if you take that out there, that's 64 in a 3-1 loss. You know, so Angelino might be coming into some AA game now at Hoffenheim. So that might be a bit of a sleeper one. And then it's hard to recommend a goalkeeper here. Sommer's at 49, which, you know, for as long as he's playing for Bayern, it's always got to have some appeal. But where do you play your Bayern players, I guess, eh? I'll not be making any changes to my team. I'm locked and loaded. Reishi to the top. Now, I've got to admit, in France, I'm always kind of forever lost. I've not really got a great handle on the French draft system in terms of guys that are good value, but I managed to bring in Bourdieu this week at 50 coins, and, you know, Bourgoat, as he's known, at 50 feels like good value. He's got a good game this week. He's at home to Rennes, which will be fun. PSG and Marseille also get good fixtures at home, but there's always other teams and other fixtures in this division that just surprise, and guys can drop out with 80s and 90s from midfield and defence. So you're always a wee bit, you know, I think I might have a good game of it here. I might have a good team of it. I'm actually maybe, I know I've made all my swaps, haven't I? I was maybe thinking about trading my goalkeeper, but no, I think I'll leave that for this week. Serie A, as we know, is probably the most limiting of all the drafts, and I only made one change this week. I dropped Sensi for Ravella because Monza have got a great game this week. Captain Cravadonna, Berardi is expected to play, isn't a definite, but he's expected to play. And then Tio and Skorupski, let's just cross our fingers on those guys. Big scoring potentials. But La Liga is one of my bread and butter leagues, and it's one that I like to think that I know pretty well, but I know my favourites really well, and unfortunately it's just not a great time for some of them at the moment. So I'm looking at the fixture list this week and thinking, can I make some swaps and some trades? Who are the cheat code guys that I know I could bring in and will have most likely a pretty good performance? And like going across the whole league, like, again, there's not that many great games for this week specifically, but I managed to bring in for myself an EC Payazon. He's around the 50-point mark for now. He's away to Elche. Elche have recovered some form. They're not going down without a fight, but Payazon, as we know, is very reliable for these kind of fixtures. Arnaud Martinez is in good form. Soraya. I've got a lot of guys away from home. I'm not holding my breath on this. I think it's very difficult in La Liga. More difficult in La Liga than it is in Bundesliga or the Premier League to really go into it thinking, oh yeah, without having like half Barca, half Real teams when you know they're going to play and you know they're at home in easy fixtures. Betis Barca will be difficult, and Real Madrid should batter Almeria, but you never know, man, these days, the way some of the results are going, how serious to take that. So Yeah, it's a funny one, and I'll actually be really interested to hear what you guys think for La Liga this week, because I'm sure you guys have probably got something interesting to say about it. And we're I heard Trip and B say this on Major League Sorare on Sorare TV, but we are almost a third, or we are now basically a third of the way through the MLS season. Things are really hotting up, and we've got a good idea now of the quality and the strength of a lot of these teams, but even the home and away dynamic and the fixture pile up, who's fit, who's available. There's a lot of rotating parts in a lot of these teams. It's very difficult to predict and forecast MLS, you know. I've not made any swaps this game week. I managed to pick up Burki for 46. I'm really glad about that. Petrovic is now in because he's got a card finally, so he's available at 58 points. He's probably the best keeper in the league on paper. But it is quite expensive at 58. Stuver and Melia down here in the high 40s look decent. Brady at 47. Yeah, down here you get the actual playing goalkeepers. Barraza at 46, by the way. FYI, 73 with no clean sheet. Check it out. Barraza, the real deal. The real deal. The machine, Luis Barraza, as he'll become to know. Walker Zimmerman's down at 52 now after maybe not a great L5 by his standards. I don't know, it's hard to say, but he feels very cheap at 52 for the best centre-back in the league this game week. At home to Atlanta, Giakoumakis is iffy, and they don't tend to travel well at the best of times. A defender I would definitely recommend who's on at 40 points still is Brian Kufre at NYC. Now, his scores over the last little bit aren't all the way amazing, right? But he's as cheap as he gets. He's going to play every game at left back for NYC, and he's the cheapest defender you can possibly get. So I would definitely have him looked at. Maybe even for this game week as well. You know, he just needs an assist. Albert Rusnak down at 49 points is great if he's going to keep in this squad. Seattle look to be building a Hall of Famer squad now, and Rusnak at 49 is much cheaper than the other Seattle midfielders. So I think he's a must-have if you've got a 50-point mid spot to fill. Keaton Parks is great bang for buck at 46 as well. You can expect these scores out of him all season long at NYCFC as well. Giakoumakis at 48 is still very much worth taking because he does score when he plays, and that cost will go up at some point. You will need to deal with the injury problems, of course, in the immediate term, but as soon as it gets past that, it gets past that. Rui Diaz looks to be out now, so Hebert at 45 is also a great pick. He will play unless they play Jordan Morris in attack, so maybe you want to get both of them and cover your bases or whatever. But for my MLS team, I'm trying to keep it. I want this team to... when I picked this team for MLS, I thought this is my fantasy MLS team. I think this is as cheat code as it gets across the board. And I'm just waiting for the week when it pops in. Burki at home at Portland. Yaimar away to RSL. Almada away to Nashville. Thiago away to Toronto. And Druisi at home to San Jose. They're all going to need big games if their teams are going to win. And I think this one could do pretty well as well, guys. Wish me luck for all the draft modes as well, guys. I hope one of these tips maybe helped you out. One of these player picks maybe helped you out in your draft system for this week. Let me know how you get on. If any of them help you out, smash that leaderboard. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.